Howdy, howdy.
Hey. What's happening?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going good.
Good. Man, it's like I haven't done this. I'm clicking buttons and ah,
This is like rookie league night. It seems like
yeah.
anything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
I,
Well, we all
I'm,
made it. That's a first good step, isn't it?
right.
Yeah,
I'm
it
looking
is.
at the chat and I don't know what I was doing, but I just clicked chat again to make it go away. I'm like, ugh. Oh well. So what's up, gentlemen?
Oh, just happened to be on the computer and saw that Castle Hives was going live tonight. So I thought,
Oh
hey,
my
let's
gosh!
jump on there and see what old Brian Coper and Bruce Jenny are up to.
Wow. Look at that. And it even says here. Well, now this is correct because I'm the hobbyist beekeeper, and I
I
see
see that.
Bruce. It says sideliner beekeeper.
Mhm.
And you're just Nature's Image Farm, so
I'm a nobody. I'm just a nobody guy.
right.
Uh, I'm not about the labels. Hobbyist, sideliner, just full schmuckery, whatever you want to call me is fine by me.
Schmuckery.
Schmuckery, yeah.
Huh.
Uh,
Bruce is just looking like, oh boy, they're gonna start. It's early.
Bruce
No,
is
it's
thinking.
fine.
Bruce was like, "Please God, let these guys stay away from anything controversial. No schmuckery, contrarianism. Let's just have keep it clean, straight laced bee chat."
Right.
Talk about
Bruce,
whatever you want.
Bruce,
I've
I'm
what's
got a
just
going
little
kidding,
on?
cold,
Bruce.
and so I've got a little cold tonight, and so I'm kind of just my
Oh,
voice. I don't know. It sounds weird. I can't hear very well on my earphones tonight. So
if
as long as you guys can hear me okay, that's what matters because it's not coming through like it normally does.
I think what's taken place is it's got to be like dye or something from that A hat is finally
Mm.
trickling down, and it's about ear level.
Maybe
So
so. I don't know.
Bruce, how'd your team do this weekend or last
They
weekend?
won. They won, of course.
Nice.
Yes, they did. They dominated
well,
quite good.
Look at
Yappy
that.
here just
Yappy
pushed
the
back.
Bee Man says, jumping in for a second to send some love. I was getting ready to check up on him. Usually we hear from him a couple
Yeah.
times a week, and
Well,
I don't think I've heard from old Yappy in it's probably been 2-3 weeks.
been a little while. Yeah.
Hey, Yappy. What's up, Yappy?
I bet he's on some Caribbean cruise, scuba diving, and just can you just to see him just in a Yappy B-Man Speedo, just backstroking there on crystal clear waters, scuba diving down with all the snorkel
I,
fish.
I could picture Yappy out on some like African safari, and they're like out to tag like a lion, and he's the guy that's hanging out of the side of the Jeep with the dart gun so that they could put it asleep and put the tags and that on it. Because he'd be
Wow.
hanging out there, yeah, doing all his crazy stuff. That would be
Yeah.
Yappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Bruce, what's happening down your way?
Not much. Just put some food out this past weekend for the bees up in Ozark, and did some oxalic acid treatments on some of the ones I was concerned about, and that's about it for now. Also, last night we had Grammy and Lynn Hughes invited me up to a little bee club meeting up north of town, up in Ozark, actually up north of where my bees are up there, and we had Ken Lebowitz from Hives for Heroes came and talked. Alabama representative. He's from Andalusia, Alabama, and so I actually got matched up with someone today to be a mentor, and so I've already talked to her, and so I'm excited about that. That's a great program. I think we need to do a better job down here of finding some mentors and getting this thing rolling down here. We have a military base just close to here.
Oh, wow.
Used to be Fort Rucker, now it's Fort Nova. So a lot of retirees around here, and people. There's probably people that would be interested in it. We just need to get that marketed and advertised a little bit and get some folks involved. So Lisa actually kind of made that happen. She greased the skids on that. She knew someone who was looking for a mentor, had them sign up, and then I called Ken, or I talked to Ken this morning, texted him, and he made sure the match happened. And so we're going to see how that goes.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's about it. Not a whole lot more going on down here.
It's that time of year.
Yep.
Yeah. Mr. Burns.
Mr. Coper, let's give a shout out to Mr. Ed
Oh, yeah, I
Grizz.
know.
Wingfield says, "Hey Greg, I joined Hives for Heroes." Mr. Wingfield,
awesome.
we appreciate that. Makes a big difference whether you can support everything going on with Hives for Heroes as a mentor or a newbie. Either way, it's a fantastic opportunity. And what I like about Hives for Heroes, there's a lot of great places you can go out and learn about bees and have educational training and classes and such. But what Hives for Heroes does the best, in my opinion, is help connect those people to actually form those relationships, the boots on the ground, cracking lids together, building those relationships, building that experience with the bees. I think is a way that you can take your education to the next level. And so, Mr. Ed, thanks again for signing up. What's been going on around here is, it was fall for a little while, then it was winter for a few days, and now it's back to late summer, early fall, 60s, 70s, nighttime. I mean, like tonight, it's going to be in the 60s, and it's just one of those things where every day we wake up and we just say, if we can just get past today, and then the next day is if we can just get past this week. And then it's if we can just get past this month, it'll get easier. But I feel like that's what every farmer says every day of their life, and just somehow trick ourselves into believing that tomorrow is going to be easier, and next week's going to be easier, and next month's going to be easier. But we'll talk about a lot of that more as we kind of get on. We excited. We'll be speaking at the East Missouri workshop in February, along with Jeff Horshoff, Mr. Ed, and also Nathan Coleman from Duck River will be there too. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with those fellas and also presenting and talking to the folks there in Missouri. A lot more to come. Brian, it seems as though we may have a very special guest waiting to jump on and tell us about all things going on in their neck of the woods.
It's almost like you said farming and boop, heard this little pop. But we don't want to talk to him about farming, though.
Well, it's bug farming. It's bee farming. Well, he's one of the few folks that needs no introduction. He farms bees and farms corn and soy and probably a lot of other crops there too.
Yep, and he throws it all into a blog.
And he does a nice. And this special guest. Let's see if anyone can guess who he is first. And let's give some hints here. He's one of the very few folks who has a gift for articulating his thoughts in such a way where you're nearly hanging on every single word, because the way he's able to string together those thoughts and use words to do it helps describe and paint pictures of what he's thinking, what he's seeing, what he's going through on the farm. And that is a very rare talent. And that's one thing that really stood out when I was first getting introduced to this guest is how well that he did all that. That's one hint for me. So my hint is very well articulated and can share his thoughts through words in a way that not many can. Bruce, if you had to give a hint about our special mystery guest, what hint would you throw out there?
I would just say fireplace.
Fireplace. Hey. I think I know what Brian's going to say. Brian, how would you? What hint would you give?
Well, I've got two things to say. I would say, well, the first one will give it away guaranteed, but both of them will give it away. But I'll say, if you don't like the way he does things, you're going to find yourself in a barn, a very dark barn, and very dark shed, and every once in a while you're going to see a red light coming through, and he's going to be sweeping up dead bodies.
Oh, wow, this is getting
while he's sipping on a Kraken.
I knew you were going to use the magic word.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Articulated, fireplace, and Kraken.
Right.
I think, judging by the comments here, I think everyone's done a pretty good job of guessing.
Yeah. We got to get all right. He was just sipping something there. You got to get him when he's not sipping on anything.
Good evening, guys.
Hey, Ian, how you doing, man?
I can tell you're a farmer, Greg, because you were forking a lot of shit there. Excuse my language. That's probably the best introduction I've ever gotten so far.
That was
Right.
a four-time manure shovel. Not many know that one.
Ian, if you get tripped up on any of your words, just remember what I said to think about.
Oh, no, that's terrible. That's an inside joke. We'll just leave that between you and I. I was practicing it. I'm going to Iowa down to flying into Des Moines, leaving tomorrow. And we're going to Ames, Iowa. So I'm not exactly sure. I got to check in my maps. But they rented a car for me, and Sandy and I are going to drive 45 minutes in a direction towards Ames. So I've put together these presentations, and that's what I was doing today. I just found a couple hours to put some stuff down on a computer, because one of them's a new presentation, and I like to practice it live, just to kind of walk through it and see where I stumble over words and where I do a lot of babbling sometimes, and just try to see how long it takes me to talk. It just, practicing the presentation. And Brian was on, because I do it on my membership, my member page on the YouTube channel. So I just speak in front of it's a very small, but a live audience. And Brian was there just kind of, beaking me off.
Oh, there you go.
It's all good. So the one presentation is about indoor wintering. And I'm trying to apply it to the guys down in Iowa. Maybe you guys can help me out a bit here, but I think they have much similar winters we do. They're only 9.5 hours away from us. They get the cold and the snow, but they also get the warmth, because the jet stream kind of comes around and bounces around. So I think they get the variability. And I think that's what they want to target on, is when they set up this shed, to do it in such a way that they can manage the variability of the weather through the winter, and just take that variability out and just put those bees into that pause. You can see guys doing that in especially migratory beekeepers. You see these great big potato warehouses in Idaho, where guys are bringing this semi-loads of bees and stockpiling them inside into these great big sheds, just to do that, just to take these bees, just find a place to park them for one thing, but just to remove some of that variability throughout the winter, and try to extend and prolong that life, make winter a little bit more predictable. So I think that's what my presentation is going to be focused on there. That's the one. And the other one I've put together and I've presented before, and it's about building my business over the years. I've been doing this for 24 years now, and I started with 4 colonies, and how I started with those 4, and what kept my interest through some of those demoralizing times as a beginner beekeeper, just losing everything, not knowing what I'm doing. And then from that point, deciding to turn it into something commercial, like to provide some income for my family. Just how did I then take that small little business and build it from 4 colonies to 50 to 150 to 250 to 800 to 1,500 where I am now? And how do I structure the work? And what equipment did I invest in? And what are some of the mistakes I made? And just some of that continual conversation around the growth of my business over the years. So that's my second presentation.
So what I'm hearing is, I'm not even going to, I'll end up saying something and everybody's going to say, yeah, we knew it. So what I'm hearing is, I could take my 15 colonies that I have right now and turn it into 1,500.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And you should.
Sounds good, Brian. See?
All right.
Closet sideliner just moved to closet commercial, just like that.
Yeah.
Closet commercial.
All right. Sure. Yeah. No, I enjoy, I tell you, Ian, I enjoy listening to you talk. And like you were saying about the lineup that's going to be out there, you don't give yourself enough credit. I will say that. Because you're talking about...
Wow, there's going to be some presenters there. Tom Seeley, Lewis Bartlett, Mila Spivak, Jamie Ellis, and then me. Yeah, I mean, those are pretty high-profile beekeepers, I tell you. It's going to be an interesting supper. That's my most enjoyable part of I enjoy a lot of things. I like getting away from the farm with Sandy, for one thing. This farm is overwhelming, and this has just allowed me an excuse to get away. And
Mhm.
it's almost, I have to give myself an excuse of, it's okay, you can get away, and almost like I'm providing myself the ability, because it's almost like I'm still working. I'm going down there and I'm presenting, which is a lot of work for me. And I have to prepare, and I have to put on a show, or not putting on a show, but I'm up in front, um, talking to an audience, right? So I'm working, so I'm justifying this that way, and it's helping me build these skills of communication. And I think it's helping on the farm, and helping within my business aspects, and helping with other, association work and that. So it's not wasted time, but we're still, Sandy and I are able to get away from this cursed farm and just enjoy ourselves. So I could submerge myself into the obsession of beekeeping, but
Mhm.
she's kind of indifferent about that. But then we take a day and we drive just to see the area, and I really enjoy that. But the part I really enjoy about these conferences and conventions and meetings is the supper after everything's done. So you sit down with the organizers, and they're just, all the whole time they're uptight and they're cracking the whip. But after everybody's gone, we sit down at that supper table, grab a beer if they drink a beer, or a Coke, eat a hamburger, and they just kind of unwind. And so do the speakers. And the speakers just kind of just relax, because they can't fly out to the next day anyways. And we just talk bees. And I love it. It's
Yeah.
where you create the networks. It's not
Mhm.
through the conventions. You meet all these people, you make the networking with the department heads and the beekeepers and the association members. But that supper with the convention speakers, you form a relationship with those guys. You talk about stuff, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Mhm.
I don't mean to sidetrack your your
No.
live here. Kind of hopped on and started rambling.
No, and that's what I always enjoy also. I mean, you know, I've never been a speaker at a big conference like that, but what I enjoy, like when I go and just listen, it's exactly what you said. It's the dinner after. It's like the conference in January. There was, my gosh, how many people went to dinner that was it that Saturday? I mean, there had to have been 30 people. And it's those moments though where you can just sit and enjoy each other's company and hear stories and you know yeah, that's what I enjoy. So yeah, but then the networking also, I mean, like on here, like you were talking, you're like, it's this weird platform that we have being YouTube, and you're talking to people that you somewhat know, but then when you go to these conferences and you meet those individuals and
Yeah.
you can sit down with them, that just takes it to a different level. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy being able, it's just like earlier in the year when we were able to shake hands and chat. It just takes the friendship that you end up building, it just takes it to a different level because you've shaken the person's hand and you've been able to share a couple moments. So that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, I dig into it. Not so much that you're talking the YouTube side, and there's personalities on YouTube, and you
Mhm.
go and you meet them, and that networking with the YouTube, what do you call it? YouTube community. Um, I really enjoy it because, well, I've involved myself with the association. I'm really heavily involved with everything to do with their industry. I'm the chairperson of our Manitoba Beekeepers Association. So when I go to these other association meetings, I'm talking to association presidents and directors and people involved within research and
Mhm.
universities, and I'm putting together this network of people, this resource of relationship. And as we're managing our issues in Manitoba, I'm seeing similarities right across the country. And as Manitoba tries to hit these issues on head on, we can also, well, anyways, I can gain the perspective of everybody else around us and how they're managing them and which direction they're going. And, maybe adjust ours a bit, or maybe when we go over there, just communicate them to see if they can adjust theirs, just to bring, it's like, we're all moving, we're all trying to achieve the same thing, and just sometimes when we're all moving in different directions we don't get anywhere. So if we can sometimes just bring people together to move things in the same direction, we can achieve more. And if we don't have to agree on everything, but we can find the things that we do agree on and just capitalize on that. And we do that with networking. We do that with communicating, just bringing these things together, create the programs to bring in the resource. So that's really what I'm digging my teeth into. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that. And that's where this YouTube channel has helped me, because I've always been that guy in the back. I've talked about this before, but I've always been that guy in the back of the room, taking that back seat in the corner and just taking in everything and not really involving. I've always wanted to engage. And this channel, especially coming on to live like with you guys here, this has given me practice when I go down to Iowa. Just kind of frees my mind up a little bit to be able to convey and talk and socialize. But just doing this, I practice conveying my thought. And by doing that, I'm doing it every day online. And I'm, guys telling me that it's providing benefit, but I'm doing it more so for myself. And then when I'm going in front of people and trying to, achieve engagement with people, and it's more productive and it's more worthwhile. And instead of people looking and talking through me, now they're looking and talking to me, is because I'm properly conveying to them. It makes a lot of difference. And the same with my farm, with my brothers, my family, neighbors, business associates, with people I deal business, through the farm. Is the act of communicating is so very important, that you can see how people who are, you don't have to be so much intelligent, but if you can just convey what you're trying to say so people can understand you, you're going to get a lot further in life than just being quiet, sitting back, or not being able to communicate what you're trying to say. There, I'm rambling again, but
That's a lot of good points there.
I don't even have Kraken in my cup here. It's not December yet, Brian.
There's a Kraken eggnog yet, is there? Yeah.
Oh,
no, not to December.
What's interesting to think about is, a lot of us are interested in conferences, the YouTube community, the social media community, and it's an interesting. There's probably some kind of really smart psychological analysis of all this kind of a thing, but there's nothing new under the sun. It seems like we are able to, we think, tighten up the lens and the focus, and be a part of these communities where we've kind of aggregated the thoughts and the ideas and what we're kind of interested or into. And then initially, early on in that experience, you feel like, oh my gosh, end quotes, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but I found my tribe, and here is this entire beekeeping community. And then as soon as you get into that beekeeping community, you realize that it's the same exact rat race of the other, whatever thing you just came from. And you find these interesting little subsets and dichotomies within all of these communities that you would think that because we all love something as simple as Apis mellifera, or just the honeybee itself, that we would all have all this common ground and this uniting bond to just be hunky-dory and happy-go-lucky, and everyone's with each other. But what you find is that there are so many barriers, so many walls, so much red tape, where it is no different than any other group. And that's the unfortunate part, is you have so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many groups, so many subsets. This unifying thing of the honeybee actually becomes just another tool for divisiveness. But what I really appreciate about what you do, Ian, is you're able to just articulate what it is that you're doing with your bees as it pertains to your farm and your life, and it has this unintended consequence of cutting through all the BS, and folks can just tune right into that. Have you found that there is these weird, I'm not even sure if I can explain it, barriers or walls up that folks have between, as you are literally navigating all of these waters of the beginning beekeeper, the backyard beekeeper, the hobbyist, the sideline, the commercial, all the way through, maybe up through lobbying for greater change. Do you find that there's these weird barriers and barricades and roadblocks in all these little groups?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Little clicks everywhere. And I think it's just a part of human nature to form around familiarity. Because if it's familiar, then we feel safe and comfortable. So we surround ourselves with like-minded people, right? I'm no different. I do the same thing, but I like to stray out of that bubble or the echo chamber. The worst thing about these little subsets is everybody's like-minded in such a way that they start, echoing the same thing and propping each other. It's just like an echo chamber, and they can't get free thought, and they get so caught up in their own little echo chamber of importance that they forget about everything else that's going on around them, right? And if they could just, and I'm not saying that I do it successfully, but I do make an attempt to do it. I try to step out of those little bubbles and see what the other guy's thinking, right? I walk over to Bruce. Hey, Bruce, uh, uh, we're talking about, let's say, a small hive beetle or whatever. Up here, we're just absolutely petrified of the damn things, and we have these camps that, well, I'm not going to get into the politics of this, but just stagnate any type of progress to be able to investigate the situation, that we surround ourselves in this narrative that we can't even talk about it. Otherwise, the hell with you. So I like to, step out of this camp and go and talk to someone like Bruce and say, hey, Bruce, what do you think about small hive beetle? And you tell me the straight up truth. And so then I bring it back and I say, well, this is the experience I've learned from this guy, and get crucified over it. But we need to be able to venture out of our comfort zone, listen to how other people do things, listen how they think, listen how they navigate their lives or their businesses or whatever. And not that we have to do it, just bring it back and provide it for better perspective of ourselves, right? I don't know. That's one thing about this YouTube I find extremely interesting was a double-edged sword. Actually, I put a video out here today about it. I was talking to a beekeeper about a very specific issue, and after I was talking to the beekeeper, I just made a video on it because I was fired up about it. A lot of beekeepers in Canada watch that. They'll think it's to do with politics about something or other, but it was about something completely separate and different. But it's one thing about YouTube or social media in general is we're able to put out a message in front of the world and penetrate all these little subsets of people, all these little echo chambers, all these little diverse groups of people, and penetrate into those groups to get our message through to them if they're going to be listening. And at the same time, being able to then have, if you can get lucky enough to get engagement from these little subsets, penetrate into them, gather some of that information and pull it out and then bring it to somebody else. This social media network is such a huge opportunity. I think it's doing our business, especially our beekeeping industry, a lot of benefit, because we are a very small industry and we're spread out. There's no other time in history our little industry has been able to tighten up like we have and being able to share with each other our advantages and disadvantages and just different ideas like this. But at the same time, social media, it's very dangerous because you're out in front of everybody, and what you say, everybody listens to you, right? Or hears what you're saying. And if you misrepresent yourself, you can completely destroy your brand, your business brand, your personal brand, just in an instant like that. So one of the reasons why I don't do any social media on my brother's sides of the farm, I show a bit of the grain farm, but I don't show any of the cattle farm, because he's so involved in developing this brand and messaging around the product he sells to cattlemen right across the country and across the world. He's so focused on that messaging. He has me, his brother, come in and take a picture and say something wrong, and completely erases everything he's done over the last 3 years, right? So it's something that we have to respect. We have to respect the power and the gravity of this awesome way of communicating with each other, but we can't be afraid to use it either, right? So I'm on Facebook a lot of the time, and I'm probably saying too much. I don't say government political stuff like the politics. I completely stay away from that because I don't find any benefit talking about that. But I've submersed myself into bee politics. In Canada, we have a lot of bee politics, and I'm tapping into beekeepers right across the country by putting out Facebook posts that piss people off because they don't. Everybody's so galvanizing their own thought, and everybody's so uptight and so angry about the seriousness of the issue. Nobody wants to talk about it. So when I go and put a position out there like this, I get axes thrown at me, and then I go and put another position out like this. The other guys throw axes at me. So everybody hates me all at the same time. But I hope when I do that, I convey myself in a way. Well, for one thing, I'm familiar because of YouTube, so they maybe understand me, and maybe they understand what I'm trying to achieve. I'm just trying to achieve conversation. I'm just trying to achieve engagement from beekeepers to see what the hell do you guys think. We need to talk. We have all these different areas and demographics. We need to be able to collaborate our thoughts to be able to navigate through this problem. So I hope when I'm doing this, I don't look like that shit disturber, typical troll Facebook person that just stirs the pot all the time. Oh, that damn that Ian Steppler. I hope they're more like, oh, what's Ian have to say today? Oh, there's some really interesting gossip. I never heard that before. Maybe I'll go talk to my neighbor about that. What's he have to say about that? Oh, maybe I'll message my buddy over across the country. What did that Ian Steppler say? Do you hear what he says? What is he talking about? You know, just that fluidness of information that industry needs more of. So we're more familiar with the issue at hand. And when we get presented with different ideas, we're not so intimidated. We just shut them out. So maybe we'll listen to it a little bit and maybe acknowledge it in a way that it'll help us take a little stutter step to allow us to advance and progress a little bit. So I'm just having a lot of fun with this YouTube project and the social media project. And I don't know where it's going to end, but I'm just going to keep on foraging until somebody, no, that nobody can shut me up, right? There's nothing anybody can do that can shut us up. We're in charge of that. So this is what I do. This is who I am. And this is what I'm going to be doing. If they don't like what I'm doing, then they'll just remove me from the association, or they'll take me out of positions like that. But I'm still going to involve myself in engagement within the industry. So I'm just going to be. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be lingering. So I'm just going to keep beekeepers talking, and it's a lot of fun because I'm tapping into guys. All like my inbox is full with engagement, with questions, just get my perspective, argument. Guys will phone, like I'll talk to high profile guys on the phone to talk about these serious issues, but I don't talk to anybody else because it just kills my time. But I do a lot of messaging on just to get perspective and just to feel out and just to provide them with a different line of thought, or, well, this guy over here doesn't really think that either. He's just navigating through the awkwardness of conversation. Yeah.
Ian,
But I don't think this is why you guys had me come on here. So just kind of hijacking your entire intent.
We actually talk about bees very little, it seems, on this beekeeping chat, because as a beekeeper, the heart and the mind of the beekeeper is something that's very often overlooked, underappreciated. And you got to have some of these conversations because it helps us all do better, not just with beekeeping, but as we form these relationships, as we all are on these, we're all on our own individual journey and path, but we're also doing this together. And it's important to recognize and take a little bit of time to talk about these things. You mentioned it with as much as there is to potentially gain from these kind of relationships. The biggest threat is those who are playing into identity politics when they don't even understand or realize that there is such a thing. And that's what makes it, that's what is causing it to go upside down in a hurry. So talking about it and getting those things out there and getting folks to question themselves and what they're doing and why is important.
Yeah, that's how we run our business, man. I mean, we have our business is very complicated. We have the grain farm and the honey farm and the cattle farm, and just the dynamics of family and everything. As we're managing the business, there's a lot of structure and restructuring and building, and it's just that added layer of family just adds a dynamic of conflict. And not that we have conflict, but there's that uniqueness of the conflict that family farms have to manage. And one of the ways we do it is just by talking, by sitting at least once a week by around the table whether or not we bring a formalized business to the table, but we sit down and we just make sure, even when we're busy, that we're talking about things that are going on, and we're talking about things that are going wrong, and things we need help with, and we need, just kind of, and ideas. Like my brother just sent me a text here about 10 minutes ago. He's shot me a picture of this sunflower header he wants to buy. It's $55,000. And so that adds conflicts for spending money, but he's throwing it out there just to, here's an idea. I'm not going to shut him down. I'm going to consider it. And he's put it out there. He's going to throw it in front of my face probably 4 or 5 times before our next business meeting. I'm more familiar with the idea, so then we can have a more useful conversation as we navigate the process of trying to invest into another piece of equipment to help us with our workload. So he's going to lay down the justification of this thing, and he's going to ask me, because I manage the money on the farm. He's going to say, well, how are we going to make this work, Mr. Cash Flow? And I'm going to say, well, our business dynamics and our debt management and all this kind of things. And I'm going to shut him down. And he's going to say, well, my workload, and I'm bringing in like $450,000 of sunflower crop, and I have a $500 header right now. We need something capable. And, we have that exchange of conversation. We approach the awkward nature head on, and we just try to carry a fluid conversation so it's familiar and we know where we're at all times. Yeah, and that's just the basics of business here. Yeah,
that's one thing that's so hard yeah, that's one thing that's so hard for people to do, though, I think, is just to address the elephant in the room. Lots of times it's easy to talk about the little things on the outskirts, but to actually get to the heart of the matter, because sometimes that really, it can test your belief system almost in a lot of ways. You mentioned the YouTube thing, the beekeeping thing. I've had people, who many would consider to be trolls on my videos, say things that were actually quite mean-spirited sometimes. And sometimes I just get irritated, and then I start thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe they could have said it better, but they're right. I could try it, and I've molded a lot of what I do in negative comments that have come out. I prefer a constructive criticism over just you're an idiot type of comments, but I've had several people mention things that have really improved. One example, a couple of years ago, I used to just kind of scrape the comb off, the burr comb off, and just throw it on the ground. I was in a hurry doing my hives, and one lady really jumped all over me on a comment. She said, I can't believe you throw that beautiful comb away, that beautiful wax. You could use that wax. And she said, I'll never watch your channel again. And at first I was like, well, yeah, okay. I got mad, but then I'm like, you know what? You're right. So now I carry a bucket with me, and I've actually got quite a few pounds of comb or wax just by scraping the burr comb off the top of the frames when they build it up in the spring. And it's beautiful white or yellow wax. And it turns out to be really nice wax. But I just didn't ever think about it much. I'm like, there's not enough wax here to worry with, but you can fill up a bucket in a hurry doing that, if that's, so that's just one example, but there's so many examples of that. Most people are positive, and many people are just, even here in the comments, some of the folks on here have said, well, why don't you try this? Or what do you think about this? Or, and if it makes sense to me, I'll give it a try. And sometimes it helps. And so you got to get the ideas out there. If you don't share ideas, then nobody can improve. And so I think that's one of the biggest purposes of this whole I think Cayman kind of got this thing really rolling of just, people sharing ideas, sharing commerce, sharing new products, just sharing so that everyone can get better. I think that's what the whole idea is. And so
that's an example of the YouTube penetrating into a different, like your YouTube channel is digging right into another little echo chamber. You're in an echo chamber yourself. Your buddy probably would never say that to you, but this other person did. So that person's not part of that little echo chamber of yourself, and it just provided you a perspective of a different way of thinking. You didn't have to take her advice. I mean, the heck with her, right? But
yeah, it's like you just want
that conflict.
Yeah, you just want to delete the comment and say to heck with that. But then you realize, you know what? It always takes me a little while to cool off. I'm not one that just lets stuff roll off my back very often. I tend to I have to think about it for a minute, but I am willing to, after I think about it, even simple things like you don't need music in videos, you do need music, this and that, or you need to do this with your videos, or most of the comments are about beekeeping. Obviously it's a beekeeping channel, but I've had some really just absolutely mean-spirited comments, and but then when I think about it, you know, if they just say you're a dummy, you're a clown, you're an idiot, that I just delete those, or I don't care. But if you know, you just got to put those behind you. But if someone actually says something, sometimes people just don't know how to say things behind a keyboard. You know what I mean? And they just say it off what they're thinking immediately. And sometimes it may not come out the way they think. I've had people, even I've commented on, I've kind of gotten a little snarky back at them. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come across that way. And then they apologize. And then I feel bad. And so I kind of, you know, I try not to do that. I try to think about what I'm doing. And many times they're right. Lots of times they're right. And it's actually really helped me. And so it's pretty cool. And like you say, you can penetrate the entire world through YouTube. It goes, I look at where my videos are watched, and it's literally all over the world, countries I've never heard of. You know, people are watching them there. I don't know how much they understand it if it's a different language, but I do know it can translate a little bit there. But anyway, it's really wild to think about that. And I've had some interaction with some people in Australia. They're concerned about the hive beetles, or not hive beetles. They've got hive beetles, but the mites coming in there. Just some things like that. I mean, so many people I've met through the YouTube thing and the beekeeping world. I never would have ever met any of you guys without this platform. So it's pretty neat.
I don't have enough people to follow me for anyone to call me an idiot yet. So I'm still flying under. I'm still flying under
Brian,
the radar.
I'll call your next video you put out there. I'm going to be your troll. I'll be like, Brian,
you're an idiot. Brian, good job.
I'll create a new channel. I'll create a new channel. I'll create a new channel under some name.
I was working in the shop changing the discs on my speed disc, and I was listening to you guys, and you called yourself a bunch of jokers. And then I think you corrected. I think it was Greg corrected yourself. No, we're a bunch of jackasses. And I was like, yeah, that's right. So I commented on there. So, yeah, you're a bunch of jackasses.
There you go.
We can't take this too seriously. I mean, we all love bees, whether you're farming or you have a couple hives. We all love bees. We all love talking about bees. And the truth of the matter is, I think the folks that are worth listening to are the ones that don't take it too seriously, because the ones that are taking it too seriously, they're coming with some kind of baggage. They've got some kind of axe to grind. And if they don't have room to laugh at themselves, I mean, are they really able to look at what they're doing? So look at that redfish. Brian, you just absolutely set yourself up for hashtag Brian the Idiot comment. Just trolling by. Look at this. The absolute best ones are the ones that would be like the comments that go something like, Greg, I've loved your channel and your videos for all these years, but how dare you not wear a mask with your vaporizer? I am now unsubscribing. Will never watch another one of your videos again. And what I like to say is, you know, you're welcome for all the free content. I'm glad you were able to enjoy yourself for the last 8 years. And I'm impressed that somehow by me not using and it could be a million things. I can't believe you used a pink J hook like Ian Steppler. I can't believe you did that. I'm unsubscribing, you joker or you jackass. Right, yeah. It's like, what? Okay. You don't have to announce to the world that you're just see ya. Anyways, I'm a little salty with some of those things.
Fun.
Yeah, I will say though, it's been fun, this YouTube thing. It's a lot of work and it's very frustrating. But man, just the people, the people that have come into the comments, even on here tonight, so many friends that we've made, that we've met, that we know, and that have taught me a lot just from watching your stuff. And you know, I'll tell you, Ian, I've recently kind of got hooked on watching Brad's videos from up there at Faith. Yeah, he does a really nice job with this stuff up there, and you know, he's doing a lot of the same stuff you're doing, but he's doing it in his own way. It's obviously a smaller scale, but man, it's interesting to see what he's doing up there and how he's managing with the kind of the smaller equipment and the things he's having to deal with. So he's I
love talking to Brad. Like you say, we're very similar the way we keep bees, but we keep bees so very different that he's got me hooked on his daily.
How dare you?
Sorry, guys. What can I say?
Oh man,
who is that guy? Was he in a Speedo? That's it. Brian and I got a comment.
Oh my god.
What was I saying?
Ian's thinking of the Speedo. Oh my god.
I completely lost what I was trying to say there. It was
Bunch of
very important, though.
jackasses. I
I'll
thought
have
this
to
was a
rewind here.
beekeeping chat. Look at these jokers here, just talking about life, having fun. How dare we?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We were saying something about Brad.
Oh, yeah, we
Oh,
were talking
Brad.
about Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got me hooked on his. He has like a recap blog, that or vlog, I guess you're supposed to call them, every Saturday
Uh-huh.
morning.
He
And
does.
I
He
wake up,
does.
and I
Yeah.
drink my coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and I watch what he's done for the week. And he's 3 hours, I think, 2.5 hours away from me, north. He's right beside one of the great big lakes, so he sees a little bit different weather than I do. Surprising how much our weather is different. But he manages his bees like me, but completely different at the same time. And some of the times I'm like, "What the heck are you doing, Brad?" But the other times I'm like, "Holy crap! Look what he's doing." And it's just a different perspective as I'm working through my operation and going through the drudgery, and I've done this and I had to do that and all this reactive management, and I see what he's doing is like, oh, he's got that completely figured because he didn't do what I just did here. If I would have just maybe left that, but I can't do that because I'm doing this. But what I'm trying to say is, like, it's a different perspective and a different way of managing things, and he can convey very well. I just love talking to him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
bother
enjoy
him on
watching his
Messenger all the
videos. Yeah. I just caught his last one today and I watched it and he took a tumble and all that and I thought, oh
Yeah, man. He sure did.
yeah.
Yeah, he felt like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
It's been raining for 3 days here now, and we have 6 inches of snow on
Mm,
top, underneath an inch of rain, and everything is
mm,
just slick. Highways are good because they have salt, but the country roads, you can't drive on them. You can almost skate down the country roads, and
yeah.
the cattle are just splaying. It's not good, and
Wow.
it gets icy like that. You end up like Brad, flat on your back, and sometimes in the hospital because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no
Got to be
doubt.
careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no good for my shed because it's holding at 7 degrees right now. I wanted it 4, and we're getting some mild weather this week. It's actually going to get up to about 6 or 7 degrees outside. So I'm a little nervous in how warm that shed's going to be. I don't know if my fans are going to keep up. And I'm heading down to Iowa tomorrow. I'm coming back on Sunday, and that's right when the warmest day is going to be, Sunday, Monday. So hopefully I'll keep my family watching the shed just to make sure the fans don't turn off. But it's going to be a little bit too mild right now.
There was a good question, I think, from Randy from Dirt Rooster. Didn't he have a good question about? Was that him that had that question about? Where was it?
I didn't see it. I thought your last video though I saw
Yeah, it's
your
up at
shed.
7:50. It's at 7:50 p.m. or 8:50 your time.
I thought your last video in your shed it was holding it like 4.6 or 4.9 somewhere in there.
Yeah, right now it's at 7. Yeah. So he's asking, want to hear about what year in beekeeping you went commercial and how you did it. Partnership, buy-in, grow over a long period of time. Well, come to
Wow.
Iowa. I'm going to be talking about it. Yeah, so it's just a progression. I don't know how much I want to talk about this. It started with I got a hook. I got in, started building out of, and I love talking to hobby beekeepers because they have that innocence and the excitement and this new craft right in front of them. They're learning about the awesomeness of the bees, and I had that and built up the 30 colonies, and lost everything, and then was demoralized. And the old man says, "Well, what are you doing? Wasting your time in this? Either do it or don't do it." So I decided to invest into it and started making a little bit of money. And that time, Sandy and I decided to get married because I'm looking to pay the taxes on the farm that we just bought. And then I realized, oh, a few more hives, I can pay more than just the taxes, and a few more hives, now I'm paying, and now we have kids, and I can buy some Christmas gifts. And then before you know it, I've been able to manage my workload on the farm by sharing the responsibilities of my brothers on the farm, where we can dedicate the grain farm, dedicate the the cattle farm and myself at the honey farm, we can kind of separate those workloads and just build the business within the business. And it's a continual investment, just like everybody else. But when I got in, it was 99, and then I went commercial, about 40 hives in 2002. In 2003, I got the contract of Bee Made, which really helped build my business because it was a secure market, and they paid me a good price. They treated me very well, and I'm still a member because of it. And it's just an investment, continual investment, as the farm grew itself. So another 5 years, I was up to 500 colonies, and then it seems like there's roadblocks. You get in, and 50 is the first roadblock. Then you got to buy the infrastructure. You got to learn how to manage those bees. Then you get it up to 150 colonies with the same infrastructure, and you find yourself a roadblock. Then you got to invest into more equipment and more facility, and then not manpower yet, but then you get up to 500 colonies, and before you know it, you're so busy with the bees, and you're so busy with other things that you're actually not getting enough work done with the bees, and you're starting to fall backwards. So then you start investing into more equipment, and then you start hiring in the help to be able to help you with the workload to get the work done. You find yourself investing into the manpower, which is a cost, which is actually making you money because you're getting your work done, and the bees are surviving. So then 500 up to 800 to 1,000. 1,000 seemed to be that next obstacle. Is 900 colonies in my old honey facility, and I was just too tight, too cramped, and I was having trouble bringing in guys to do my work. So then I built this new facility. I'm just like a goldfish, up to 1,500 colonies like that. I have the equipment, I have the facility, I have all the boxes I need. And then I'm building experience in how to manage the manpower to do my work. So there's a lot of the time I'm not actually here on the honey farm doing the work. I'm delegating it out to my workers. I'm doing other things, or I'm doing other things more important not more important, but other things that need my specific attention within the business. And running a business isn't always the hands-on part about it. Like beekeeping, only 50% of the business is actually beekeeping. The other 50% is the business and the money management and all that. It's just this balance of workload. So you hire in the people to do more of that workload so you can focus more time on the business part of it, right? So that's where I am right now on the farm. I'm managing a lot of the debt, the cash flow, the planning, the budgets, the financials. I do all the business with the bankers and our insurance and the lawyers and the accountants. That's all my workload. So I take that away from everybody else. It puts it on my lap so they can spend more time doing what they're doing. But it takes what I'm doing away from the farm, the honey farm too. So I delegate that to Carrie. She does all that work. And then we hire guys for her to delegate to do the work that she doesn't. That's not that she doesn't want to do it, but she puts herself in more important spots, and she puts the workers in those less important spots that have to get done. So that's just how the progression works. You start with something very small, and you just learn how to build it into something big. And I could go, if I had the ambition, or maybe if I had one of my kids was interested, and I just might have one, but if I could get one of my kids back onto the farm to show that we have, past my lifetime, just another lifetime of beekeeping, we could very easily take this farm, what I have, and just go and expand it 5 times if we wanted to, just like that. Just a matter of investment. How much money do we want to spend, right? Because we have the business plan, we have the strategy in place, and when I'm doing works, it's just a matter of duplicating the processes all over. Just you need more backing to do that. You need to see a little bit further out. So seeing further out, you need to involve a partner, like a family member, to do that. So maybe even a nephew, who knows? But there's opportunity there to take hold of.
Where, Ian, in your timeline, from when you started out with your handful of colonies to where you are now, where was it in your timeline that you realized, it might be a good idea if I move these hives into a shed? Where did that come along?
That's a really good
thought come along?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have a strategy on this farm, and I think our entire farm follows this philosophy. Is when we're doing our work, like farming is a terrible job, just full of drudgery. You really have to love this work to do it. We find all these things that we love about this job, and that's what keeps us here. But it's all these things that we hate that we just dwell on, and that's what we do. Is we identify those things that we hate, and we focus on it, and we take the hate out of the job. So then we have more things that we like than the things that we hate. And wintering bees outdoors, wrapping colonies was one of those things I just absolutely despised because it's not a matter of workload, but it's a matter of just the whole process. I'm busy with the farm. Wrapping colonies usually happened at the end of the work list. In fall, we're trying to get everything done as like I would have been here talking to you guys last week, but I was on the tractor because we're trying to beat the frost, beat the rain, and everything. So we're pushing and pushing and pushing to get work done before our freeze up, and all the bee work was always pushed to the end. So by the time freeze up happened, then we go into the bee work, and I had frozen fingers trying to wrap these colonies up, and we're trying to move bees and snow and shift them into quads and all these wraps were just infested with mice. It's just a terrible job. And in the spring, you come in and everything's just, there's I don't know how guys keep the mice out. I use poison, but I could never keep the mice out of my wraps. They just make a mess. Then you get dead colonies, and you're pulling all this funky ass boxes back to the honey house to scrape up because of mold and slime. It's just a job I just despised. So I like indoor wintering isn't anything new. It's been adopted. It's been here for 25 or 30 years. So I've just adopted a process of something that was already in place, and I just built the shed. Brought in the facility to be able to bring the hives in. So now I can bring the bees in within 3 days. I go out and just pick them out of the snow, put them on the truck, and drive them in with a forklift. It's an amazing thing. Close the doors, and then, there you go. Take them out in the spring. So it works very well. And I'm a bit of a micromanager. So bringing them in like this just allows me just to manipulate environment a little bit like this and just fuss over them as I worry all winter. So it just kind of explores that little bit of myself also.
Yeah. I would imagine having them in the shed as compared to outside, workload wise, I could not even imagine when you were wrapping colonies. How many colonies did you have at that point?
I think I made the transition around that 800, 900.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That'd be 200 wraps. It was a lot of work. And I did the hard way. Like the wraps are pretty expensive. You can, at that time, they're $50 for a quad wrap. And I think someone was telling me they're $100 now. So it's a big investment. But I just used insulation and tar paper. So it took a while and it took a long time because I didn't have a lot of money off the start either.
Wow. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. I couldn't imagine doing that.
Ian, you're speaking at the Iowa Honey Conference, the November 10th and 11th. That's this coming. If folks heard the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of conversation, if you can get to that conference, if there's still tickets, I would highly encourage you to go sit in on that. What Ian just shared about the business, scaling it, is one of the great. It's one thing a lot of folks are interested in starting a bee business, and that's its own little set of hurdles. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. Once you actually get established with a bee business, that's where it gets hard. If you thought getting started was hard, wait till you actually start growing a business and have to try to make things work. What Ian just outlined in that brief 15 minutes was almost a masterclass in getting started. Not just getting started, but moving forward, gaining momentum. If you can get to this November 10th or 11th to Iowa to check out one of Ian's talks, as you were talking, I was looking. It's 10 and a half hours from here. I don't think I can pull it off in time. I would love to hear a 3 or 4 or 18-hour sermon on the Mount about those things that you're sharing, because a lot of folks are going to find themselves in that position. If you get good at keeping bees alive, and you are halfway decent with business strategy, if you are comfortable being self-employed, you end up finding yourself in a position where you have to figure out how to scale the business, how to grow, what do you do. There aren't a lot of textbooks for that. So being able to learn from someone like Ian would be well worth the price of admission and time taken to do it.
That's my second presentation is kind of on that. It's the steps through how I built my business, and I don't know. It's hard to cover everything in a 45-minute chunk. So some people come in, they're just like, "Oh, geez, I just loved that presentation. It was right on the mark." And other guys are like, you missed it because you need to add more and how you develop the business sense of it. The money management." And I'm very cautious on how to advise people how to invest their money, because everybody has different means, everybody has different abilities of managing money, everybody has different different access points for philosophies, or just how to manage money is something that you can't. It's something that's very personal and unique to yourself, and you just got to. What I tried to bring to the conversation is more of the applied nature to managing the workload and managing time management, managing employees, and there's, as I was building from the small little business into the sideline into commercial, what were those strategies I used to be able to manage manpower? That was my worst. That was probably my biggest obstacle, is bringing somebody in to help me with doing what I was doing. Because I ended up bringing these guys in just to watch me do the work, because I would not let them in to do the work for me, but I needed them to do the work for me. Just I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to direct these guys, or to structure my work day, or to put the program in place to be able to allow them in to do the work. So I focus a lot on that, because that was probably my biggest hurdle. And as soon as I was able to step past that and bring guys in, bring one guy in, another guy, just start bringing the guys in to do all these jobs for you. It's an amazing thing. Wow. And then that's when the business can really take a step forward, because then you're able to get the work done and make the money and invest the money into the business to build something bigger, to actually build a livelihood on. And it's very specific, though. Like I do a lot of things that you guys maybe don't do that down there, because I'm in Canada and I'm managing honey, and I'm managing a lot of honey, and I'm managing a lot of severe conditions, and that's a lot different than maybe guys down in Ames, Iowa. But the principles all follow suit. It's all about structuring the day, structuring the work process, how to approach the situation at hand to be able to get that task done. That's what I'm trying to get across in my presentation.
Yeah, Greg, I when I heard where he was going to be at, also I got thinking. I'm like, how far away is Iowa? And it's
going to North Carolina too, Charlotte. Bob's actually going to be there. Bob Binney.
Oh wow!
He said he's going to come there and he's going to heckle me. I think I made a comment in one of his videos that said something about, boy, if you're in the audience, you'd really have something to say. You'd heckle me. And he said, well, next time you're anywhere close, I'm going to come to the audience. I'm going to be in front row and I'm going to heckle you. And he is. He's coming to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Wow.
So that's going to be fun.
Funny.
That would be, when is that?
We're leaving November 30th, and the presentation is not on my. It's the beginning of December. I got to check the date. Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Huh. Charlotte is, I think it's about a 7.5 hour ride from me.
It's a bit of a drive for me yet. Yeah.
All right.
I'll be down to Cayman's Expo one of these years, so we can meet up at that time too.
I'm here in Iowa here in November, North Carolina in December. Where is Kentucky in January?
It's not this year. No, I'm not a Bob Binney. I told Cayman, like, he's more than happy to have me down. I said, no, well, how about you stretch me out over a 2-year period or even a 3-year? Because I have a small little library of speaking points, right? I don't have a lot to be able to speak on. So, use me up the first year. The second year I'm old news. So maybe I'll come in 3 years, I'll come in 2026 if he wants me.
Oh man. Or we'll just come up to, you'll be at some meeting in Manitoba and you'll see a bunch of YouTube beekeepers come walking in and start heckling you.
Be more than happy, just as long as you pay the ticket price.
Oh man. Awesome. There are so many people in chat here tonight. I do want to say before I get sidetracked, thank you to everybody that has given the super chats and stickers, and Ed and Catherine and Bruce, buddy, thank you. Greg, thank you. David, that's unreal. Thank you for that. Lee, thanks.
Idiot fee.
That's going towards my idiot fee.
That's great.
Roy, thank you. And Lisa, thank you again. Yeah. Before I forget.
Ian, thanks for spending some time with us today. And we know you're busy. You've got a lot of other things, a lot of other irons in the fire. Is there anything else that you any final thoughts or anything else you wanted to get out in the open or talk about before you get on with the rest of your night?
No, I'm just I was really appreciative that you allowed me on here, just to, like, I always bug Cayman before I start on, like, it was during COVID days, I think it was, and he'd run his lives and I say, hey Cayman, let me on your show so I can practice speaking, because I have the speaking engagement. So I'm going to Iowa, so this is just helping me free up my the juices that need to be juicing before I go to Iowa to do that. So thanks for having me on here. Yeah,
not a problem. Always great to have you on. So, and like I said, do not you've earned a spot on that stage, I'll just say that. So you have tons of knowledge, and yeah, you've earned a spot there, Ian. So yeah.
Okay, very good. I'm going to carry on. I appreciate the chat. Guys, keep up the good work, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Great, Ian. Thank you.
Ian.
Awesome. We'll see you. That was awesome.
That was real good.
He's such a humble guy with so much wisdom to share. Him being at that conference, there's a lot of folks. They all have their niche, whether it's from a scientific standpoint, a research standpoint. There are very few beekeepers who can speak to beekeeping from a business standpoint, let alone a successful business standpoint. The thing about beekeeping, or you name whatever the enterprise is, it's one thing to do something well, but it's one thing to do something well enough that it is financially prosperous and it puts you in a position to continue to do that year after year after year after year. That is a completely different level of success.
Yeah.
And there were so many gold nuggets that he shared with just in that 15-minute expose of how he was just growing his business up and bringing it along through there. There are so many, that's a lot of us are in different points of growth phase of not just beekeeping, but business. And those are just absolute gold nuggets. Folks, if you can get to Ames, Iowa, this November 10th or 11th, it would be, I think, well worth your time and your money to get there to hear more from Ian and a lot of other great speakers too. We appreciate Ian for jumping on here, and just one thing about Ian, he's always been so open about sharing and joining in conversations, and definitely a stand-up guy.
Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah. Winterizing colonies. We're supposed to talk about that tonight.
Really?
That's what I said. At least that's what I said.
How dare a beekeeping chat not just solely talk about bees for 4 hours? I mean,
right.
There's
it's crazy.
There's a lot more to it than just the bees. But well, Brian, it's we've been on for what, an hour and 15 minutes. How do you want to spend the next 15 to 30 minutes, Brian?
What man, I wanted to talk about winterizing, but
we'll go for it. Tell us all about it. And
Greg's just I got controls of that too, buddy. Watch this. Oh no, I don't. There we go. I clicked the wrong button. No, that's been like a hot topic lately, and I'll I'll have a video coming out tomorrow where I go on a little bit of a 8-minute rant.
Ooh.
So I actually got look at that. You see, I got that control that button too. Look at this.
Your mouse is sticky. It just keeps going back.
Oh man, I actually got a phone call from somebody who watched it and was like, and then we had a conversation related to my video. But yeah, I'm sure it'll stir up a couple things. But the whole like winterizing, at least what I do, you know, if I go on here and I tell people, like Ian was saying, YouTube, it's that double-edged sword, and it's very powerful. And when I was listening in when was West Virginia? Was it February or March?
I don't know.
Yeah, I forget. It's been seems like that's been 5 years ago. But
I'd say
when I
probably
was
March, end of March, maybe.
when I was listening to the talk when you were on the stage with Humberto and Fred, and we're talking about social media
Mm.
and just the different dynamics of it, and Fred was saying, you know, it's a very powerful tool because something you say today, it's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
And you can be judged on it forever. So, like what I say about winterizing, let's say there's a brand new beekeeper that wants to follow this joker, named Castle Hives, and he's in, southeast Alabama. It's completely different. You know, some of the techniques might be, you could carry through in the summer and that, and certain methods. But as far as what I do in my videos, it's it varies. And even from my area to your area, Greg, it varies so much.
Right.
I mean, like I
Absolutely.
saw the other day, we were at like I think 58 degrees here, and you were like right on that cusp. I saw the 70-degree line, and I'm like, man, it's in the 50s here, and Greg's got 70. So
Yep.
it's just crazy. But um, winterizing, it's so context is key. It just you really have to be in tune with your area and your weather. Um, and all of that said, this year I'm going to try. Yeah, I see David saying it. Location, location, location. And Lee, stop. We're going to start getting text messages from Lee, just like what Bruce sends with his flagpole with a nice sunset. 85 degrees there today. That's horrible.
Mhm.
But this winter, I think I've pretty much made up my mind. Um, I'm going to close up all of my upper entrances this winter. Just, I've seen enough data out there that I think I'm going to do that. And the data that's there, it's pretty sound. There's been a lot of folks that do that, but this winter here, at least in my apiary, what I'm going to do, I've got the insulated inner covers. I used a couple of them last year. They worked out exceptionally well. I just ordered the rest of what I need, just to get them on all of my colonies. And what I'm going to end up doing is I need to get, it's even thinner than a shallow, but almost like a thick spacer where I'm going to attach that on top of that insulated inner. And Fred Dunn had a video on this actually, and then throws some great stuff foam and insulate that even more so that it gives a little bit more of an R value up top, leaving an area where, of course, I can put my Hive Life fondant, and that's going to be my sole focus as far as any type of wrapping or insulation. It's just going to be on the top so that it holds that thermal pocket. That's it. So it'll be a little bit different, and I'll probably be nervous as I'll get out going through the winter. But we'll see. We'll see coming March how I did. So, but Bruce, you like in your, and I'm going to click this button again. Pow! Watch that. you at least in Alabama, like you're winterizing, what does that look like? Like when do you could, because you really don't ever get into a period like where we are, where we could have 3 months, 4 months where there's white stuff on the ground. You never have that in your area. So as far as winterizing in the South, what's the main focus for beekeepers in the southern states?
It's mainly, I think, just managing space and weight as much as anything. I mean, I've never wrapped a colony. It's totally, I think, unnecessary down here.
Yeah.
We're always, it's actually, I think it complicates things a little bit for us just because we have to watch our colonies throughout the year. I mean, I don't do a lot of manipulations or management or, I'm not in the colonies in many inspections in the wintertime, but you'll see Mike Berry kind of doing a similar thing. We're always going out and tipping the back of the colony to see what the weight is and just kind of maybe peeking in the cover and seeing how they look and seeing the population and things like that. So it's not like we can just close them up and leave them alone for 3 months down here ever, because they might have plenty of weight on them. And then 2 weeks later, if it gets warm for 2 weeks and there's nothing to bring in, they'll consume almost all that food. So
yeah,
but then you don't want to leave too much food on them in the fall, because then the hive beetles can become a problem if there's too much honey. If there's just too much space and too much honey on the hives, your hives can get slimed out in the late summer and early fall. And so it's just a constant battle to keep feeding them, keep weight on them, but don't feed them too much to stimulate them too soon, because then it's just a constant, and that's still something that I'm trying to figure out. The feeding has always been my weakness. At first, obviously, everything was a weakness, and then I'm beginning to figure out the queens and mites. I'm still not where I need to be, but the feeding is still to figure out exactly how to manage them and how much food to give them, because you don't want to stimulate them too much, but you want to keep weight on there, and you do want them to stimulate them at the right times. And Mike over in Louisiana, he's directly across from me, basically to the west. So he is a very similar, I don't know what you call it, what is it called, a geome or whatever it is, where, very similar weather patterns. I mean, almost identical to what we have here. And I'm sure Lee and those guys in Louisiana are similar, but it's just a constant battle. Mike just kind of lets him keep the honey. He gets them to the size he wants them, and then when that fall flow comes in, obviously the brood nest decreases, and then he just makes sure they have weight. And if you do that, sometimes you don't have to feed much, but he's always aware and he's willing to feed if he needs to. And so, I've become aware of the Hive Alive fondant, which has been that's a great benefit here, because you can put it on there to, even in the wintertime when they're plowing through some of their stores, you can put it on there to help supplement them throughout the winter. And that's saved many colonies over the last couple of years for me. And so I've started utilizing that in my stuff. And down here, don't have to do a lot of pollen supplement, a little bit here or there, but pollen patties can be an issue with the hive beetles, and it just never gets cold enough for them to cluster for weeks on end. They may cluster for a couple of days and then they're back out flying again. So I don't think we have the issues with nosema and stuff, or some of the problems from that perspective as people do up north, where the bees are just enclosed for, months on end. But we do have other issues that folks, it's just different, like you say. And it's interesting too, right here in my apiaries and my bee yards, one bee yard will be starving, and then the 120, even 6 or 7 miles away, will have plenty of weight. And so it's just because it's just so bizarre how that happens.
Yeah.
So you just have to check them all, even though it's the same region, the same area within a few miles of my house here in different directions. Each bee yard is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Also, mite, we still need to check on mites. We're able to do that here some in the wintertime. And it's, I'm hoping to, for the most part, I think I have the mites under pretty good control, but I'm going to be hitting them pretty hard here, November, December. Well, actually December probably. I'm hitting some of them now that were a little bit higher than I wanted, and I'm going to be just kind of nailing them with the alkoxylic acid all the way through December and even into January, just hammering them. And then I'll see how they look in January. I may put formic in there again, depending on the temperatures. Obviously, it won't be too hot in January, but just want to make sure that it's warm enough to be effective. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Nice.
I want to come out of winter with a good, strong colonies and
Yeah.
make a lot of honey next year.
Yeah. You don't, man, Greg, I don't know what, if we had that weather up here, although the warmth, I mean, that brings, there's other issues, there's other things that you have to watch. I mean, you come up here and, when we have it cold, I mean, my maintenance throughout the winter up here is trudging through the snow and checking, the fondant that I have on top of them. So, I guess we have our own challenges up here, but Greg Burns.
Brian Coper.
Look at that. Oh,
Wow, that's scary.
look at that. Wow.
I would say this is like a 3-hour thought dump. So I'm going to do it in 3 minutes. And I think the person who said it best is Sarah's Happy Hives. And I actually like how she said it, because she said, keep it simple, sweetheart. I've never heard that. It's always been keep it simple, stupid. I like her version better.
Right.
But that is absolutely the key. Here's what I'll say is, as you are building experience overwintering, the more years you have under your belt beekeeping, you begin to realize the beekeeper. You realize yourself, your habits, your mental approach, your thoughts, the way that you do certain things. And looking back, I think a lot of folks who are still in, I don't want to say, this is no disrespect. This is no belittling at all. But I looking back at myself as I was in my juvenile stage of beekeeping, and that infancy stage of growing, even 100 hives or less, I found myself doing things, thinking about things, and overcomplicating things in such a gross manner where it absolutely is hindering your ability to learn quickly and move forward. The things that I used to do in attempt to get my bees to make it through the winter, looking back now, were just gross. The amount of time and thought and energy and resources and equipment and convoluted, mixed up different approaches that I heard this and that, and we leave it to you leave it to a beekeeper to spend $10 to recreate a $1 part, or to spend 10 times longer building something that would have taken 1 hour otherwise. For some reason, we think that we have the sauce, we've got the silver bullet, we've got the perfect combination of thoughts and equipment, that somehow that is going to make the difference. And I think it's an important part of every beekeeper as they grow and as they figure out who they are, what they are, how they go about beekeeping. But Sarah's Happy Hives, that comment, keep it simple, sweetheart, is absolute gold. And I'll say the things that I used to do, I no longer do. As complicated as my overwintering technique gets, recently we just had the last learning yard of the season, which is hands-on showing folks exactly what we do. When you have several years of experience of overwintering, you start to really get to figure out what is working, what's not, and what is all this weird extra stuff that we're doing that may or may not be making a difference at all. For me, seeing 4-way pallets out here wintering on these hillsides in Ohio, that I've done nothing other than put insurance feed on top.
Mm-hmm.
I started to try to realize, why is that working? And what my overwintering strategy comes down to just a couple very basic things. There's nothing we're going to do now to make up for what we didn't do in August. That being said, keeping the bees clean and free of mites and clear of viruses is the single most important thing, in my opinion, that you can do to prep your hives for the wintertime, because they are able to they're able to withstand the up and down swings of temperature, breaking cluster, feeding. They're able to do that and withstand that. So being virus free, or as virus free as possible, is one of the biggest buffers for the up and down temperature swings that we have here in Ohio. The next thing that we do is I don't want folks to think of it as emergency feeding, because I think that's not an accurate way of looking at it. But insurance feeding, putting some feed on top. Personally, we no longer are using dry sugar. We're not making sugar cakes or sugar bricks or any of those things anymore. Spending all the time and labor to do that, we may have saved a little bit of money. We thought on fondant, but what we saved in money, we were upside down in things like possibly dysentery and diarrhea streaks through all the things, or the waste of the sugar, them dragging it out, throwing it on the ground out in front. Were they actually utilizing it? We moved past that stage and went to fondant and started seeing enormous results. The third and last thing is the cold's not killing the bees. Moisture inside of the hive is not killing the bees, but cold moisture dripping down on the bees is killing the bees. So what we have found over the years here in the hillsides is that, especially on four-way pallets, we have entrances that are facing all directions on whatever the side of the hill that they're leaning. But what we actually found is that the colonies that have that lean, the condensation is able to drip from the lid to the sidewall and then run out of the colony. And it's not killing the bees. So the main thing I think for us to consider is that moisture inside of the hive is not necessarily the enemy. You're going to find yourself in this weird predicament where you're going to either convince yourself that you need to over insulate and airtight this colony so that the bees are warm and so that the colony supposedly doesn't condensate. And then you're going to be forced to argue with yourself that, well, I need more ventilation inside of my colony to move the moisture from the colony, and you're going to have top vents and do all these extra things that while the heat is rising, it's carrying the moisture out with it, but you're also losing the heat itself. I think there's something to be said by finding some kind of a balance in between. One of the things that we've taught our folks here to do, especially with the lids that we've built, with the migratory lids, with the patty rim built inside of it, we build those specifically to put fondant on, to put pollen patties on, to put treatments on. But you can also take double bubble or Reflectix and with a couple T50 staples, staple that right on the inside of your lid and then increase the R value. The R value on that is 3.7. So when you compare that to the R value of your sidewalls, your ceiling of your colony is warmer, significantly warmer. The R value of wood is roughly an R value of 1 per inch of wood. So when you're talking about a 3/4 inch sidewall of a bee box, 0.75 R value, as compared to something as simple as stapling Reflectix to your feeding lid, you go from 0.75 on the sidewalls to 3.7 on the ceiling of the colony. Where do you think the condensation is going to happen? Is it going to happen at the ceiling, or is it going to happen at the sidewall? It's going to happen at the sidewall. The moisture is going to drip down. It's going to leave your colony. So that's simple. For us, keep it simple, sweetheart. We're not doing all these extra things, and that's made a huge difference in our overwintering success every single year. Number 1, mites. Number 2, insurance feeding. And number 3, making sure that moisture is not dripping on top of our bees. And that's going to depend on, that approach is going to depend on where you're at and how adverse you are to risk.
Got a question for you.
Shoot.
What's the best bit to purchase to drill holes in lids? And I think
with the one on our website, I think is the most versatile. It's an adjustable hole saw, and you can actually adjust that hole saw. And if you want to cut your lids at 49.8 millimeters, so those plugs fit in tight, you can. You can use lots of other ways and go about it. Alhambra Orchard Napier, go to our website, naturesimagefarm.com. Take a look at the hole saw that we have. We're happy to send you one. If you want to find one somewhere else, at least go to our website, take a look at that. But what it is, in short, is you have a center drill bit, and then on either side you have a post that has a sharp point, and you adjust those points. Those points you adjust in or out to get your overall width. Of course, that's going to be circle and a drill press to create what you're looking for. But the idea is you need your hole in your lid to be a little smaller than the plug that you're using. So I think you want to look at somewhere around 49.8 millimeters works great. For HDO plywood, a lot of commercial folks will use those as well to cut. I've seen it. I've seen folks use those to cut HDO and ply with it. I personally, there's several other tools that you can use for that, including a hole saw, a Forstner bit, a adjustable hole saw. All will work well. It depends on if you've got a drill press or not. So a lot of those are best used on a drill press because they walk too much. They can be a little dangerous and they can chew up some wood.
Good stuff. I'm trying to keep up with the comments here, but I know I've missed a few. If I've missed a few, if some people have tossed out some questions, it's difficult sometimes when you're sitting here and you see these things just scroll past.
Yeah, the comments, they blow past there pretty quick. I just want to, I hope I didn't sound grumpy talking about overwintering, but I think we've got to wait. Overwintering is you have folks who especially the beginning beekeeper, they've invested so much money and time. They are identifying now as a beekeeper. They've committed all of this income and time to do this. They want to see this thing be successful. And the biggest fear that they have is my colony going to make it through the wintertime? And that is one of the greatest challenges on the horizon for a lot of folks. So it's because it seems as though it's the greatest challenge, we automatically associate it that it's the most complicated. And then if we say that it's the most complicated, it's the most hardest to wrap our brain around on what are the things that we need to do to make it right for these bees to make it through. And I'll go back to the beautiful comment by Sarah's Happy Hives. Keep it simple, sweetheart. For anyone listening tonight, if you are in the Zanesville area or you're the Ohio area or you're a part of the Learning Yard, the community, you know exactly what we're talking about because we've showed you all throughout the year, all these things, why we do them, how to do them. And so now when it comes to wintering, it's not a big deal. But if you're in a different part of the country, a different part of the state, and you still are scared to death on overwintering your bees, I would highly encourage you to reach out to somebody in your local area who doesn't talk about being successful, but is actually successful at keeping their bees over the wintertime, and try to spend some time learning from them. What are the things that they've done from March all the way until now? Not just what is the secret sauce this time of year, because if there's nothing we're going to do now to make up for what we didn't do in August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true.
Hey, Greg, a term we haven't used in a while, intentional beekeeping.
Bruce, well said, sir. Intentional beekeeping doesn't start when the leaves start turning colors, does it, Bruce?
It does not. And unfortunately, sometimes I get caught up in that and I have to do better.
You will find an unintended consequence for your unintentional beekeeping.
I do think that we do have a little bit more leeway here in the South, though, because it doesn't get cold as fast. I mean, we can still kind of, you can still open feed, you can still feed a little bit on throughout the winter. So if you get in trouble, you can, there's ways to feed them and keep them going. Whereas up there, once it's cold, it's just cold. And so we have a little bit of grace down here, I think, that you guys may not have up north with the weather.
Yeah, but I tell you what, though, in the last few years, our winters up here, I think in the last 5 or so years, I can only count maybe one winter where we had consistent cold temps.
Gosh, I can't even remember one.
We've been more in the patterns here. Instead of being consistent, we've had this roller coaster effect of temps, and it's killer. It's absolute killer on the colonies because, it's like I just went over, I went over yesterday, maybe it was. I went over yesterday and checked on some colonies. Now there's absolutely nothing out there for them to forage on. nothing. So if I did not feed, at least up here, what are they going to do? They're going to rip through in November. They're going to start ripping through the stores that they have, and we're not going to have anything out there for them to forage on until, gosh, I mean, it's probably going to be what, 5 months? So, it's months. And lucky I went over because I had 3 or 4 of my buckets were completely bone dry. Both of my apimays, bone dry. The poly hive, bone dry. All those feeders, bone dry. So I ended up yesterday, when I pulled over to my mom's place where, most of the colonies are. I ended up mixing up 3 buckets, 3 5-gallon buckets of feed. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, and this time it's so critical, at least in my head, it's critical for me to stay on top of that because, I mean, if they start ripping through their stores now, what are they going to look like in January, February?
Right. Yep.
It's just,
I think long gone are the days where you can say, just tip your hive. If they're heavy, they're going to make it. Because I think that goes back to a time, an era of beekeeping where there's nothing new under the sun. And I think we're going through cycles with our weather. But I think we are finding ourselves in a situation with weather to where, at least in our neck of the woods, we don't have winter anymore. It's this fake, false sense of winter-ish weather, and it's so up and down that, yeah, sure, in 10 maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we had more uniform winters, great. You tip a hive around the fall harvest season, going into Thanksgiving, and if it's heavy, they'll make it. But have you? I just want just think about this for a minute. Have you ever had that colony in the summertime that was just, they had an entire super on, and you're thinking, oh, well, next time I get out here, I'm going to harvest this super. And then all of a sudden you have drought and you have no rain for 2 weeks, and you go out there to go pull that super and it's bone dry.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't even take 2 weeks. It can take three days or less sometimes for those bees to devour an entire super under those type of weather conditions. So think about that. The idea that a hive just needs to be heavy to make it through the wintertime, I don't believe that, because right now we're in 70-degree weather with nothing at all out there for them to eat for nearly 2 weeks. What you're finding is that the bees are absolutely devouring an entire super plus whatever honey is around the brood nest. This time of year, they're eating the entire thing gone.
Mm-hmm.
That is a major problem if you're not on point and paying attention, because now they've got nothing for the wintertime. So how are we buffering that? We're doing things that folks are saying don't do, you shouldn't do, and that is we're feeding heavy, thick syrups late into the year, and we're putting insurance feed on, which is fondant, letting the bees eat the fondant on these warm spells. Later on in the year, reserving as much honey as possible so that the goal, you're doing it right when the bees have capped honey to start to brood up on, and late February, early March.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, things are changing on fronts, but I don't think you can say a hive is ready for winter if you tip it and it's heavy. It gets complicated quick.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you, I saw firsthand about the fondant when last year was my second winter using it, and I really took notice. I put it on a little earlier than I think a lot of folks did. It was right around Thanksgiving, like the week after. So it was ending in November, early December when I put my fondant on last year, and it wasn't like 1 or 2. So it wasn't like, and I got into a debate the other day. There was somebody debating about, like the numbers, and oh well, you can't really talk about numbers unless you've done a control with 500 or whatever. But at least what I saw in my apiary for the colonies that I had, now I had 11 going into the winter last year. When I put that fondant on, every single one of the 11 were devouring that fondant. And when I'm sitting there, and when I went into the first few and I'm scratching my head, I'm like, gosh, you pull your cover off, you pull your lid off, and you look and you see that hole eaten out, week or 2 weeks after you put it on, and you're thinking, what the heck, is this colony dry? Why are they up here? I started asking myself. And then you give it a little lift and you're like, gosh, this thing's heavy. And I started using the phrase, they're going after the ice cream instead of eating the meatloaf that they have down below. And they were devouring that fondant. And like you say, I like the phrase, it's not an emergency feed, it's an insurance. Because I would rather, the price of the fondant, I would rather use a product that they're going to eat, they're going to devour, and them not chew through as much of their stores. And that way, like you said, in the springtime, they have plenty of capped honey and everything else. It's an insurance feed, is what it is.
It's a cheap price to pay if we have found that no matter, like, the regular folks who are coming through the door buying the fondant, they may have to budget anywhere from $12 to $18 per hive for fondant. But we have seen it that has what not only kept hives alive, but kept them thriving and had them explode in the springtime. Yeah. Imagine looking back and saying, wow, I wish I would have spent $12 to $18 on that colony, and it made all the difference. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be everybody's saving grace. However, it's something to think about. And look, I get it. Not everyone has the budget to do that. And I'm not saying if you don't have the budget and you can't do it, then you're a bad beekeeper or your bees are terrible. I'm just saying, when you start looking at your bees as a business and as an asset, and you look, what can I invest in the bees to grow the asset? You look at things completely different. So for me, investing $12 to $18 in my asset as an insurance policy so that they are thriving and that they will explode in the springtime, the net yield that we see by doing that is tremendous. And so it's something that we will continue to kind of go on and do.
There are a lot of comments down here about people having issues with fondant, and I know there are all different kinds of fondants you can use. The only one I've ever used is Hive Alive, and I'm going to use I'm going to try out the Strong Microbials fondant. I have some of that too. I'm going to try this year, but I think it probably depends on the recipe and what you're using. One question from DC was, how does it do in the humidity? And Hive Alive, I've had no issues at all. And I wouldn't put it on there when it's like really hot outside, but if it's just like springtime temperatures are cooler, I've had no issues at all with that Hive Alive fondant. I don't know. I know there's a lot of different recipes and ways to make it, but the fondant that we use, what is the kind of sugars? What do they call it? Inverted sugar? What do they call that sugar?
Yeah, monomial, binomial, inverted. Yep.
And so the sugar, it's very thick and I don't know if any of you guys had issues with it melting or having issues with it dripping or any problems at all.
None.
It's a pretty firm product. It works really well.
If you just cut the logo out, the Hive Alive logo off, and you put that down on the frame for us. I mean, think about a colony when they're underneath of that. They're generating 85 to 90 degrees.
That's right.
And it's not. It's stable. It's when you cut open the entire bag and you put that fondant on and it gets ooey and gooey. I think that can certainly happen. But one of the big risks on making a lot of these things, fondants can't. Right now is the time of year where you see so many posts where folks saying, I think I messed up my sugar cake or my sugar brick or whatever you name it. I think I overcooked it, and should it be dark brown? I got it to 280 degrees. There's so many things, or now it's goopy, or now it won't form, or is this right? Is this wrong? Look, there's a lot of different ways to do all these things. But it's just, ain't nobody got time for all that fooling around to go through the time and energy to make those things and it not be right. If you're going to make your own, that's awesome. 100% do it, but make sure you're using it in a formula that not only is stable inside of the hive, but number two, that the bees are actually going to utilize it. We spent many years and wasted, I can't even tell you, thousands of dollars on input that for the bees to do nothing but drag out the sugar cake or the dry sugar out of the colony, make a mess inside of the colony, not do anything beneficial other than potentially absorbing moisture. So anyways, Brian, we've been on here for an hour and 47 minutes. We could ramble on for 3 more hours about
I'm sure.
I feel like, you know, what was that movie with what was his name? Was it Walter Matthau, Grumpy Old Men? At some point, we're going to be the grumpy old beekeepers because it's just we've learned so many things the hard way that when you start talking about it, there's a lot of scars still from all that, and we hope to be able to just humbly and honestly share our experience with it. At the end of the day, we want everyone to enjoy their beekeeping journey and their bees to be alive, but more importantly, thriving year after year. And so all we're doing is sharing our journey with that. If you do things different and you've got a different method, protocol, practice, that's awesome. It is not about just doing what we do because that's what we do. We are here to help get your noggin jogging, get some thoughts going for you to start develop and put together your own strategy and your own plan for your bees. And all we're doing is sharing those ideas, throwing some tools out there for either to take it or leave it.
Yeah. Everybody's got to figure out their own thing to do. So,
that's it. Marathon stream, maybe sometime.
Are you saying that there's no absolutes in beekeeping?
Brian, I would say there are no absolutes in beekeeping.
I am saying that the puppy is barking up a storm at 10 to 10.
Look, last thing I'm going to say about that is I hope I'm not the only one who feels like right now the computer says it's 9:52, but somehow I'm always saying, well, the real time is actually 10:52. It's not actually 9. Do we all play that game where we say, well, it's not actually 9:52. It's actually 10:50. How long are we going to play that game before we just
it sure feels like it's late. It still sure feels like it's an hour later, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Lindsay Homestead asks, Greg, do you have the 5-pound Hive Alive fondant in stock? Our first order of Hive Alive was completely sold out. We have another shipment coming this month that has both the 2-pound and the highly sought after and coveted 5-pound fondant will be available. We'll have it here at the shop later on this month. We'll have pre-orders. We'll hit our website this week. If you're interested in it, if you think it's a good fit, I'm not telling you that your bees are not going to make it through the wintertime if you don't put Hive Alive on there. I'm not saying that. But if you feel that Hive Alive may be a good fit for you and you'd like to order it, we ship it all across the country. But you're going to want to get on the pre-order. The demand for that product is unreal, and it's hard for Hive Alive to stay on top of it and get containers of that product here. We've secured some. We're going to have it here later on this month. If you're interested, check out our website at naturesimagefarm.com. We'll be happy to ship some to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that stuff, it's in demand. Yeah, definitely.
I'm looking forward to trying the strong microbials fondant as well, see what happens with that. So I'm going to use them both this winter and see. I'm not really sure, Greg, what's the difference in those two products as far as how you would utilize them? Would you utilize them in similar situations, or would you?
Well, they're two completely different. I mean, they are.
They are, I know, but they're both fondant.
Any more different? They're just. I think the fondant.
What's going to be your strategy? How are you going to utilize them differently? I guess that would be a better way to ask that question.
I'm not really sure yet.
Not either.
We've had a lot of experience with the Hive Alive. The thymol, the antiviral and microbial properties are huge, right? That's targeting a different component and aspect of the colony, where the strong microbials fondant comes into play. Yes, it has Apis biologics in it. We'll put that over here on the shelf on how beneficial that may or may not be. I'm more interested in the strong microbials, not for
Sure.
the epidemiologics, but for the actual the beneficial bacteria, the lactobacillus, those things that are helping with the gut system of the bee. For me, I think about fondant is we got to put fondant on at a time where the bees can utilize it, and if they are digesting the fondant and then getting the strong microbials DFM out of it, then that's great. At what time of year is that going to be most beneficial to them is the question that you've got to ask yourself. For me, where I think that the strong microbials fondant has real potential is actually early spring and using it for nukes, making sure that nukes are getting inoculated with those microbials in a carbohydrate digestible format. I think is probably one of the best uses for it. Over the winter time, it's a little different construction, thickness, density, and all that than it is the Hive Alive. So it's not either or, but I think they're both doing two separate things altogether.
I agree. I just, it's a new product. And so I've talked to both. I've talked to the Hive Alive people and the strong microbials people, John. We've discussed it a little bit. And so anyway, for those who are wondering what that is, the strong microbials fondant is basically a mechanism. It's a fondant you put on the hive, similar to Hive Alive. It's just a fondant, sugar fondant that you use that has, I guess it has the probiotics infused in it, and it is from strong microbials. I believe it's the Super DFM.
Yeah.
And so for those who are wondering what that is, it is a pretty brand new product. You can order it, but it's not, I don't think it's been around very long. So
No, a couple months.
I've got 40 pounds of it, I think, to try. And I'm going to be trying some of that this winter.
Yeah.
It's a little different of a construction. It's not as juicy.
It's just different.
Yeah.
My thought on it, so if you have both products, my thought would be get the Hive Alive fondant on if you're looking at least up here, and I'm sure Bruce down in your area, you could probably do the same early in the winter, like late fall, early winter. I would have my Hive Alive fondant on because you want to get the benefits of that Hive Alive into the colony. And then when you're looking at a product like the strong microbials fondant that has the apis in it as well, apis, you're more getting into, from what I've read and what I've heard, it more mirrors actual nectar. So you have the apis and you have the strong microbials that has the lactobacillus, and then you're really getting into that gut health. If you would get that on late winter, early spring, I think that for me, I would switch over from one fondant to the other, because then you're getting into a product that's going to mirror more of what nature offers in nectar. You're going to get really into that strong gut health. At least in my head, that's what I think.
Yeah, they call it rocket fuel for a reason, I guess. It supposedly kind of imitates that springtime buildup, but we'll see. We're going to play with it and see what happens. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. So I do know the Hive Alive works. I've used it. It's saved several colonies. It works for what I've used it for anyway. And this other product, I think, will be a good product as well for a different purpose. But they're not in competition with each other. I don't think they're totally different products for a different purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They really can be complementary when those things. And here's how we've used both products. Right now, when we were teaching folks and demonstrating our overwintering technique here and the learning yard, it was very simple. It was those lids that you have of ours, Bruce, the migratory lid with the patty room built in. What we do is we have a Hive Alive fondant that goes right over top of the colony. We have a half of a pollen patty goes right next to that. And then guess what we sprinkled right on top of the frames?
Super DFM.
Super DFM. So we actually gave them all the things that we wanted their gut systems to have now, because John's been here, Turpin. He is such an amazing, not only mind, but such a good heart and a good dude. He can just explain all these strains of things that I can't begin to pronounce. But in my mind, I want the thymol and the antiviral and antimicrobial attributes of Hive Alive to get that initial gut cleanse on the colony. And then I want to go ahead and inoculate them now with those strains of bacillus right now, just to create a little bit of resiliency within their gut system moving forward as they're digesting those feeds. And then by putting the pollen patty on there too, we're giving them just a little bit of carbohydrates mixed with the protein. And what we're seeing is every colony is going to town utilizing all three. And so for me, I think that's giving our bees the best shot moving forward. But it's because it's targeting different things, but it's doing it at the right times.
Yeah, there have been a couple of comments about, are they really necessary? And that just depends. You just said it gives your colonies the best chance to succeed. I've had a lot of bees over the last 10 years, and I didn't even use either of these products until a couple of years ago. Super DFM for the first time this year. And so you can have good bees without these products, but the question is, do they help your bees be even better? Are you going to have a better product in the spring coming out of winter? Is it going to help stimulate them for what you're trying to come out of winter with? So yeah, you'll have bees coming out, even probably healthy bees if you've taken care of them properly, but these are just some more tools in the toolbox,
right?
Help improve what your product, basically, I think is what we're trying to say with this. And so I'm still trying it out. I do believe in the Hive Alive fondant because I've used it. I'm now using the liquid Hive Alive supplement in my feed for the first time. I started doing that the last couple of months, and I'm going to try the Super D or the strong microbial stuff and just see if I think it has a benefit. I'm using the powder right now. Currently, I'm sprinkling some of that in the hives every so often. But as far as the fondant, I'll try that out a little bit later. I may do it kind of like what you guys talked about, late winter when I want to help stimulate them a little bit. I may try it out. I've got I think 40 pounds, whatever that box was they sent me.
Yeah.
And so we'll play with it too. Anyway, it's been a great chat tonight, man. It went by quick.
2 hours already, huh?
2 hours already. Can you believe it?
Wow. Whose channel are we? Where are we at next week?
I think it's supposed to be me next week, I believe. Yes.
Dothan, Alabama.
Dothan, Alabama.
Awesome. What's your next week look like there, Mr. Bruce?
Well, I'll be just this weekend. I'm going to throw some more food to them, be checking them. We're going out of town, probably going out of town on Thanksgiving for a little bit. So I got to get everything ready for that. But just going to be feeding as I need to, peeking in on them. I'm going to be super DFM. I'll probably sprinkle some more of that in the bees this weekend. And I'm going to be hitting those colonies I was concerned about with the oxalic acid vapor that had the mite issues. Some of them did. So that's really about all I'm doing now, and just kind of cracking lids and peeking to see if I see any problems. Really not doing much with them, with the bees.
Yeah.
I've got some ideas for videos. Like Greg, I want to talk to you about one of them we've talked about before, a video idea. And if I'm going to do that video we've talked about, it needs to start pretty soon. So we'll discuss that maybe after this chat a little bit. But anyway, that's it as far as videos go. I know the frequency has dropped off a little bit. I haven't been doing a lot with the bees, honestly. And I've just been I did the last video on that day when I checked those bees up, the one I'm concerned about, and found the problems. And so, but the videos probably won't be as frequent right now because there's just not as much going on with the bees. But I'm gonna be putting it out if I find something interesting and keeping you guys updated. And I've got a couple of ideas of things I can do to help get us through the winter with the YouTube channel and with the bees. So that's kind of where I'm at. Excited about, it's fall. We got Thanksgiving coming up. There's so much to be grateful for, even with all the crazy things going on in this world. So much to be grateful for. I'm excited that, we got, Alabama football is looking good again, Roll Tide. So hopefully they'll keep that rolling. So I just, this fall is probably in a lot of ways my favorite time of the year because I am a huge avid football fan, and it's obviously football season and I just love it. But it's just, I don't love summer because it's so hot and nasty and humid, but I do love the fall and the spring. So, but we're about to come into a difficult time for the bees, as everyone knows. And hopefully I can just keep them alive this year. We'll see what happens. Right now, they look overall, I think, as good as they ever have, if not better than they ever have from top to bottom. But things can change in a hurry. So we're got to stay on top of these bees.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Burns.
I want to wish a very happy birthday to Jeremy Lindsay. of Lindsay Homestead Farm. He says, you guys have a blessed night, and thank you for the birthday gift of the live chat on my birthday. Well, Lindsay
Happy birthday.
Homestead, Jeremy, I hope you
That's
get
awesome.
some
Happy birthday.
fried chicken and apple
Thank-
pie, or something a little sweeter than us grumpy beekeepers talking about winterizing our bees. But we appreciate you. I want to say thanks to everyone who's tuned in tonight. We really do appreciate you guys. We want your bees to not only be alive coming out of the spring, we want to see them thrive. We want to see you thrive and keep having fun and growing as a beekeeper. Remember, it's just not about beekeeping, it's about being our brother's keeper. And the conversation that we had tonight with Ian Steppler, I think, is just that. Sometimes you have to dig into the not the nuts and the bolts of beekeeping, but the nuts and bolts of the beekeeper. Get into the heart, get into the mind, better understand how we are perceiving this reality, what we're doing with that information, what are we doing to help others in their journey. And that's a big deal. Ian's doing a great job with that. And we thank you guys for spending time here with the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. We hope that you're finding value spending time with us. We sure do appreciate you here. Moving forward the next week or so, there's so much. I'm looking into an entire shop here of just complete mayhem, as we are doing so many things to improve the shop here, the warehouse. We've got to get finished getting the bees totally put away for the wintertime, get the out yards brought home, get them tucked away. And as far as on the video front, we're really struggling with trying to find the balance of shooting and sharing beekeeping videos, beekeeping education videos, live chat videos. And so there's so much that we want to do, so much that we would love to be able to do. I'm going to ask folks, if you are listening tonight, if you would either go to our website or shoot us an email. You can go to our website, hit that contact us, shoot us a message. We would love feedback. We're trying to figure out, we only have a limited amount of time to do all of these things. But we really are trying to figure out where are folks most interested. What type of messaging are they most interested in? Is it how Greg at Nature's Image Farm is keeping his bees? Is it how Greg is educating about bees? Are you more interested in the long play format podcast interview type things? We're trying to leverage what we think we do well, what we can bring value to this community, but we want to hear from you. What do you think we're doing well? Where can we improve? And what do you want to see more of? Matter of fact, I would encourage everyone listening to reach out to all three of us individually,
Absolutely.
Bruce, Brian, and myself, because sometimes we need a little feedback to know if we're heading in the right direction. We want to be able to provide value to you folks, both video and podcast, but also what we're doing in the community. So yeah, your opinions and your thoughts matter. So we would invite you to reach out and engage with us there. Other than that, Brian, I'm really excited about speaking in February at the East Missouri Beekeepers Association. They're having a workshop in February. We'll have more links and things out about that too. We're speaking at another conference in Wisconsin, and Bruce and Brian might just be there. Might be the stream converging on a conference and speaking and presenting. It could be a really cool thing. There's just a lot of fun stuff on the horizon. If you want to find out more where we're speaking at, you can go to our website at naturesimagefarm.com and click the events and see what speaking engagement is happening next. Maybe we'll be in your neck of the woods. Brian, what's coming up with you in the next week?
It's just ride the wave as far as feeding. I do have a video that is set to come out tomorrow. YouTube has this funny thing now where I'm uploading the video today, and they said you can now let your members watch it first, and then it will go public. So I'm like, whatever. So, but I'll just warn everybody, I go on a little bit of a rant. So,
Oh, must see.
Love
it's
it.
okay though. It's okay though. But I've got that coming out. But I've got, I think, the last of the supplies I know I just sabotaged myself, but I think I've got the last of my supplies, at least those insulated inner covers ordered, and I'm going to get that set now. I'd like to have everything as far as that situated and set and ready within the next week or two. That way, when it's time that I do need them, it's just a matter of walking them out, swapping out, the equipment that I have now, the feeders, and just getting my winter, my winter equipment on. I've got my fondant here, so everything's almost situated, but it's just, like Bruce said, just a slow time right now as far as videos because there's not much, really happening. So, but that's about it. So, fun. So, Mr. Burns.
Hey, before we go on, everyone who got on here late, be sure and go back and watch the first part of this video.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ian was on for the first hour, and Ian from the Canadian Beekeeper blog, and he did a great job. And we had some really great comments from Ian in that first hour. So if you came on after the halfway point or after he was off, be sure and go back and check that out.
Yeah. He joins in, I think, probably about 7 or 8 minutes in. So there was a lot of good material there. So
a lot of meat.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mr. Burns, it's all you, buddy.
Well, we want to thank our guest Ian Steppler for spending some time with us and kind of giving us the internal look, the heart and mind of Ian, kind of how his business has grown and some of his thought processes along the way. Very important and gold info to tune back to. So make sure you go back to the beginning of this video and check that out. Bruce and Brian, I appreciate you guys. I enjoy your friendship, the collaboration. So many great folks joining in tonight. I can't even begin to list them all, but we appreciate everyone spending time with us. It matters. You guys matter. And I think that's, it's not just about beekeeping. It's about being our brother's keeper. And it's for sure that like the honeybee is to the hive, we're definitely better together. So I've enjoyed talking with you guys about bees, Bruce and Brian. Looking forward to the next stream team beekeeping chat on the Bruce's Bees YouTube channel next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, we want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.